Since no one else has started, quick question for you. This has nothing to do with an upcoming fight over down here. Do you often go jogging in the foothills in Albuquerque?
I do actually. It's one of my favorite things to do. Not just for physical, but I always feel better mentally. It's kind of my mental hour.
I literally thought I saw you one day when I was visiting my mom down there.
That's
Like,
very possible.
Holly Holm.
Very possible.
So, just a curious, lighthearted.
Holly, it's obviously been a while since we've seen you at one of these media days or press conferences and everything. So how's life been since your fight against Catlin?
You know, I know that it's been one of those things where I've had some setbacks and some injuries and surgeries and things like that. I actually got some stuff really fixed, not just, I had a little time to recover. I needed it. So I am getting back to full training now, and I'm excited to get back into the full swing. I feel healthier than I was before, so I'm super thankful.
Were these things that you had to fix, were they really like hampering your in camp and in the fights?
Absolutely. Every fight you walk in with there's little injuries. Every fight you go through a fight camp, you're gonna have some injuries, and there's times that I don't want to say take a gamble because I'll never look back and make an excuse for anything. It's just something I felt like I had confidence in, but it definitely needed to be addressed, and it's feeling a lot better now, doing great, and I'm super, super thankful.
When do you think you do want to get back into the octagon? Or when would you think you'll be able to?
I want to make sure that I really am 100%. I want to build all the strength back up. Like I said, I am just getting back to training now. So, I don't want to put a specific time, but I think, if I had to put a soonest mark, I would say maybe 4 months, because to have a 2-month training camp.
Honestly, outside of MMA, I feel like women's boxing has never been more popular, more prevalent. Obviously, they're headlining Madison Square Garden and stuff with Katie Taylor and Amanda. So are people now coming up to you and they're always asking you, hey, are you going to hop back into the ring and this and that, since your last fight?
A lot of people talk about it, and I've always been one of those people that say passion first, everything else falls into place. And the reason why I left boxing and came to MMA fully is because I was more passionate about MMA. And I feel like if you're going to do any type of combat sport, you need to go where your passion is. With that being said, my very last fight in boxing was going to be either 135 or 140. 140 was my belt. 135 was my opponent's belt, and she said, well, I usually fight at 135, not 140, but I had already made 135 for MMA, so I was like, well, let's fight for 135. And she's like, no, because it would have to be for her belt, and she didn't want to put it up, so we wound up fighting at 140, but sometimes I feel like it was maybe unfinished business, and Katie Taylor, that's the belt she has is at 135, so that's the one weight class I didn't fight in boxing. I fought 40, 47, 54. So to go back and be able to get, a fourth weight class title is always intriguing, especially with everything going on. And I really didn't have the passion for it, but now it does intrigue me. But like I said, I'm real stuck. I've got my contract with the UFC still, and I love MMA. So I don't know. It intrigues me.
Last one on boxing. Is the name that the belt attached to now, Katie Taylor, now a lot of people think she's the greatest women's boxer ever. Is it that make it more intriguing that it's her
Of
with
course,
the belt?
she's the girl to beat. And I'm just the fighter that I want to beat everyone that's the girl to beat. That's just what's in my heart. So, there's that, but it's like I said, I still love to learn MMA. I feel like it's just there's a lot of, I know people are probably going to call me crazy for saying this, but people are always doing the debate of what's harder, boxing or MMA, and I have done them both. There's a few things, very few, that are maybe harder in boxing, but MMA is harder. After doing them both, it's just, boxing, you have a set schedule, every day is kind of based on stand-up. It's you go in, whether you're doing mitts, whether you're doing sparring, whether you're doing sparring, whether you're doing drilling, it's all stand-up, it's all boxing. But MMA is Monday you go in, you gotta grapple, Tuesday sparring, Wednesday's wrestling. Every day is a new focus, and there's just so much to retain, and it's your body has to work in different ways, your mind has to work in different ways. With that being said, boxing, you have to be more creative because you only have, there's just different things, but they're both fun.
And a few more from me. Saturdays was going to be Frankie Edgar's retirement fight, his last fight in MMA. So were you a fan of Frankie coming into MMA, and do you have any memories of Frankie both in and out of the octagon?
You know, I think any time Frankie fought, you know that he was going to come out there and put his heart out there, and you knew that you were going to see a performance, and you were going to see him get in there and really put his passion in there, and I have a lot of respect for him. So, you know, I think to be able to witness a lot of these fighters that are, you know, they've really made a mark in the sport is awesome, and I admire his career.
The final one for me. Do you have any thoughts on the main event between Israel and Alex Pereira on Saturday?
I'm excited to watch it. I know that much. I mean, I'm excited for this whole card. I think it's going to be great. But, you know, I think Adesanya is really hard to beat right now, but Pereira he's the most game opponent, I feel. So I'm just excited to see what happens.
Holly, right in front of you over here. The state of the division since we last saw you compete, obviously Amanda got her belt back. What was your reaction to that in the rematch with Juliana?
You know, in their first fight, I know she got submitted, but from the minute the fight was going, it was the jab that set it all up, actually. And going into the rematch, I thought, as long as Nunes changes her game plan a little bit, because she kept walking into that jab, you know, and she wound up coming in. She fought lefty a lot, and she took away that direct jab, and then she was able to impose her will. And so I wasn't surprised that she came in and was able to dominate the fight. You know, I know she has it in her. She's a champion for a reason, you know. She's been there, she's defended it, and I think a lot of people were wondering, you know, with her coming back, how's it going to be? I had confidence that she'd be able to come in and do it again. So.
Yeah, and so as a contender and somebody that obviously has a mind for breaking down fights, like, do you look at that first fight between Amanda and Juliana and think like, that's probably that was an unlikely outcome? Like Amanda showed what would probably happen more often, you know, than the rematch.
Yeah, I think in the first fight, this is just me talking. We never really know what's going on in fighters' minds and how the fight goes. Sometimes things flow right and sometimes they don't. So I'm not going to say that I know exactly what Amanda was thinking, you know, during the fight. But I feel that she may have been shocked that, you know, when you're thinking about fighting Pena, you're thinking more she's going to be in the scramble, she's going to try and wrestle, she's going to try and get in those, like, dog fights, you know. And I don't think that people were really expecting her to come out and, you know, be able to, like, land those solid jabs. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of the fight. So sometimes I think that can catch you off guard. Maybe Nunes wasn't expecting that in the fight. But she came back double prepared and was able to put her will the second time.
And, you know, I don't know how much you've thought about who you want to face when you come back and those sorts of things, but it doesn't necessarily sound like the trilogy is going to be immediate between Juliana and Amanda. I know you and Juliana had been matched up previously. Mm-hmm. Is that a fight that still interests you? It
does interest me. The fight that I was supposed to have with her is when I wound up. Last year's been definitely a challenging year for me. It's been a great year. Life's still a big blessing, but, you know, I wound up having to have my kidney surgery. And so that's why that fight didn't go through. I had to pull out. And, you know, maybe that's unfinished business that we need to take care of now. So who knows?
Thank you.
Holly, I know it's a tricky question, but from the fighter's perspective, I thought you looked good in May. I mean, it's split decision. Ultimately it's up to the judges. Is that something where you'd advocate for open scoring? What's it like on your perspective as a fighter?
Well, I feel like I won that fight, to be honest. I don't think it was my most stellar performance, but I still feel like I won. There's two different arguments there. Was it it's not like this big knockout, but I do think that sometimes people are expecting that of me. If I was to come from maybe a wrestling and more of, you know, that type of background, and I was able to, you know, I controlled her 10 minutes to her 1 minute. So if I was to come from a background like that, then it'd be like, oh, Holly imposed her will. She was able to control and, you know, control. But I'm coming from a striking background, and I think that's people get very, you know, kind of set on that. And like I said, I always take my own blame, my own fault when I don't do things exactly how they need to be done in a fight. it was not my most stellar performance, but I felt like I won the fight.
In terms of open scoring, would that have you been pro for? It wouldn't have mattered.
I think that would be a good idea. I mean, I'm not, you know, I probably should kind of think about into that stuff in more detail. I just like to train and go in and fight, but I do think that that would kind of open up. I don't know. I think open scoring could be a good thing.
I think the tough thing is when it's people say, "Oh, well, you know, in that case, finish the fight." If it was that easy, of course you would. It's really hard to finish someone.
Yeah. Well, I think you, as a fighter, you want to finish them anyway.
Of course.
I mean, so, you know, open scoring might give that extra, but for me, I feel like I should be wanting to do that the whole time anyway. I should be waiting for the right moments to capitalize anyway. So, you know, I think we should be wanting to do that from the start of the fight.
Thank you.
Holly, down here at the back. Of course, your fight with Ronda, historic for a lot of reasons, and definitely the crowd, one of them, a huge crowd in Melbourne. Do you look at Croke Park and Katie Taylor as something that, you know, excites you, as another kind of historic night that you could have going forward?
I think anybody in this sport, if you make it a career, is because you have a certain passion for life, a certain passion you have to have in order to actually choose to fight for a living. And so yes, that's exactly what it is. We don't fight for money. We start as amateurs, you know, we love it. And so when you look at something like that, something that you can shoot for, a goal that is something that could be historic, of course it's intriguing. You know, that's what I have in my heart. I want to accomplish things that are huge. I want to make big things happen in my life through my sport.
There's a sort of a belief that there's kind of 3 women who Katie could fight in that big Croke Park event. You know, there's yourself, Amanda Serrano, and, you know, perhaps Chris Cyborg or something like that. But it does seem like the feeling is that you or Amanda are the people that I know Eddie Hearn is very keen to be speaking to.
You know, I really see a rematch happening between Amanda and her. With that fight, that was just a toe-to-toe fight the whole time anyway. I could definitely, I foresee a rematch with them for sure. Cyborg, I'm not really sure if Katie Taylor plans on going up. I highly doubt Cyborg can make 35, so I'm not sure if that's just kind of like they like to talk about it or if it's something they're really going to make happen. Who knows? But I know a lot of people throw my name in there to talk about it. I think because it's you know, I think there's maybe even a curiosity about it if I was to go back to boxing, how I would do.
The last one for me, just in terms of the Amanda and Katie first fight here at Madison Square Garden, could you believe, I mean, not only the sport that you started in, but the sport that you left in 2013, could you believe that had grown into what happened in April?
I'm super proud of them. You know, a lot of people ask me if I'm kind of, you know, upset that women's boxing wasn't as much on a big scale, or, you know, I was upset I didn't get paid as much like that, you know, when I was boxing. No, I'm proud to be one of those people that helped get boxing to where it is now. And I'm very proud of these girls and the opportunities that they've worked for it. They've created that opportunity for themselves. But there's been, you know, the people beforehand that kind of helped pave a little bit of the way, but I give them all the credit, you know. They've put the hard work in and they showed it, and I was super excited to see females headlining and selling out a huge card like that. It's amazing to see.
Holly, I'll get to you, right? I'm going to talk about your last fight and kind of off what he kind of said. You put in a full training camp. You know, you get there. You got to answer questions to the media for a week. You have to make weight. You fight a 25-minute fight, a fight that both the majority of fans and media says that you won. Yeah. You lose a very controversial decision, bumps you back in the rankings, bumps you further away from a title shot. We'll never understand what that feels like. Tell us the psyche that takes to do all that and not get the results.
You know, I think it's definitely something that can really be frustrating. You can feel set back. I always say that I think that judges should have to actually experience a training camp. And not only that, but your livelihood be on the line. They'd probably judge a little more carefully. But with that being said, I always feel that I could have done better. I always take responsibility, and instead of sulking, I just want to get better, be better, and and show a better performance the next time around.
Yeah, and moving forward, obviously, you want to get your next opponent. I know you've already said on the record that Miesha Tate, a rematch against her, is something you're, possibly want. Obviously, she's recently gone to 125, but is that still interest? Is there any interest in the UFC and Miesha?
I don't know if she's interested. I am, because why wouldn't I want to go avenge a loss, I want to rematch everybody I've lost to. It's like, I want that, I want the victory. That's just what I have in my heart. But a lot can happen in 3 or 4 months. It's crazy. This sport's so unpredictable and so wild, so, who knows? We'll see what's going to be next. I know she's at 125. She might want to stay there, so maybe it's not a possibility, because I can't do 125.
Thank you.
Right here, Holly. Who is the greatest female combat sports athlete of all time, according to Holly Holm?
Well, I got to pick myself. I've had my faults and everything, but I can't. There's a lot of good females out there. I could go on all day. I don't think I could pick anyone, but I'm still competing, so I'm going to put all that faith up in me.
All right, that's good. I was actually going to say I think it's you as well. So
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Under the impression you were going to pick someone else, so I like the confidence.
Thank you.
So you're coming off injuries right now. Do you have anything lined up or a date tentative that you want to get in there?
No, like I said, rehab kind of took a little bit on this one. Maybe I'll disclose everything eventually, but I just kind of had to sit down and take time, and it's frustrating because I'm one of those that wants to go, but I've had to remind myself I've had a very active career, a whole decade in boxing and then in MMA, so I've been pretty fortunate that, maybe this last year has kind of been a challenge, but I'm so blessed, and I know that I still have it in me, and I'm feeling healthier than ever. So but with that being said, I definitely want to be 100%. I don't want to be taking
And then I know you're one of the main staples of Jackson Wink, and you've been there forever. John Jones, is he on the team? Is he off the team? Have you seen him in the gym? Can you give us an update from your point of view on John Jones?
That's one of those things I don't really go into too much detail on. Some of the coaches are still working with him, but he trains not in our gym, so I haven't seen him training in quite some time, but I know he's still been really active. So we'll see what happens with that.
And then just one more. I guess I'll just say thank you. I know that you have a teammate, Lydia Warren, who I love and I'm a big fan of. And you're a lot like Frankie Edgar. You've inspired probably so many females that are competing today. So how much more time do you think you have in fighting? And then is coaching the logical next step for you when you're done?
I definitely want to keep fighting. I know I have it in me. I'm still passionate about it, and I know I'm still learning. I know I can be with another, yes, after my last loss, putting me back down in the rankings, but I know that I can pick it right back up and get to the top. So I'm just focusing on that. I still want to go 100% for myself. And if I can inspire anybody along the way, that's great. I love our girls team, and I love to see them grinding. I love to see them working. They get in there and they put the work in. So I feel inspired by them, chasing their dreams as well. As far as coaching, man, our coaches go through so much. They do. I definitely want to be involved. I don't know if I'll do it, like a full-time thing, but I can never be outside of the gym either. So I'd like to probably just kind of stay with the team, help out as much as I can, but I don't know if that's something that I would really turn into full-time.
Thank you.
Just here. You mentioned briefly there about John Jones. I know you said you haven't really got a chance to see him in training, but how do you think he does when he returns at heavyweight? And if he goes up against Francis, how do you think that plays out?
I think John Jones has a way to just make it happen all the time, so it's kind of hard to, you see him go through every time you think it's going to be the biggest challenge. And then he, walks out with a victory. He knows how to win fights, so, we'll see what happens.